right, good morning. Karibu sana. It is the 5th of May, 2026, the very first Tuesday of this month. Karibu sana. This is a TV47 breakfast. My name is Fred Ndimuli. Hashtag TV47 breakfast.
Hashtag story near to. My name is Anne Odid, and a lot is happening in the world today. It's International Midwives Day. It's also World Asthma Day today. It's World Portuguese Language Day. It's Childhood Depression Awareness Day. It's World Hand Hygiene Day and Closer Home. It's African World Heritage Day, and I want us to take a look at how we can celebrate this day today. They say explore African heritage sites virtually. You will be celebrating African World Heritage Day, attend cultural events and workshops, support African artisans and businesses, and delve into African literature and film. So again, a lot is happening in the world and in the country as well.
Yes.
And we're bringing you up to speed in the course of this bulletin.
Yes, and of course a big discussion today is the anticipated address by President William Ruto before the Parliament of Tanzania in Dodoma. And it will be happening. We will be bringing you this event live right here on TV47 starting at 11 a.m. A big discussion, especially given the fact that yesterday, because it's a two-day visit, President William Ruto arrived in Tanzania yesterday, and his host took time to explain how they, together, should deal with the Gen Z menace. And we'll be talking about that later. Alisema wakija huku wanapigwa mikwaju. Na wakirudi kule kwingine wapigwe mikwaju. Gen Z mnasema nini?
Yes, tell us what you think about that. Mnasema mnataka mpigwe mikwaju ama mtaka?
I tell you. Hapo lakini mama
amesema democracy is between you and your government ukifika Tanzania.
Na amesema sisi huku tuna mila zetu. Sio demokrasia za kule kwingine. Hizi demokrasia huku tuna maana tofauti ya demokrasia.
Yes.
Mila zetu zitafuatwa. Mikwaju lazima.
Lazima. All right. That and much more, of course, will be forming the basis of conversations on this broadcast. But first,
social media pages, because I know people would want to interact with us, and we'll be posting a question there on some of our discussions today. For example, do you think that retired President Uhuru Kenyatta should be denied his retirement benefits for taking part in active politics? Should retired President Uhuru Kenyatta be denied his retirement benefits for taking part in active politics? On all our social media pages, TV47 Kenya on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube, where we're streaming live. On X, it's at TV47 Digital. My handle is at Fred Ndimuli.
My handle is at Ann_Dida. Remember to use the hashtag TV47 breakfast, hashtag story yetu, so we can sample your feedback right here in this broadcast. Let's take a look at the state of the weather. All right, Nairobi is likely to rain today. This morning is 17 degrees. Highs of 25 degrees expected in Nairobi today. In Garissa, it's a partly sunny day. This morning is 26 degrees. Highs of 35 degrees expected today in Garissa. Kisumu, it's a cloudy day. Highs of 28 degrees expected today. This morning, it's 19 degrees in Kisumu. That's as far as Nairobi, Garissa, and Kisumu counties are concerned. We take a look at other regions. And Mombasa is also a partly sunny day today. This morning is 25 degrees. Highs of 30 degrees expected today. Nakuru, scattered thunderstorms, so it's likely to rain very much. This morning is 14 degrees. Highs of 24 degrees expected today. Eldoret County is also going to rain today with scattered thunderstorms. This morning is 13 degrees. Highs of 24 degrees expected today. And that's the state of the weather today.
All right, nimeona hapo ukisema kunanyesha Nairobi. Sijui ni Nairobi upande gani, because it's very dry and dusty this morning.
It's
likely to rain. Light rains later today. The rains that were there last week, people in Syokimau, manyumba bado hazija dry. Bado kuna matope hapo chini. There's a time, I think, even the expressway had to be opened because the entire Mombasa Road was flooded. And so, yes, it is a relief for quite a number of people across the country.
Is it though? Because the weatherman said it's going to rain in some areas very heavily in the first week of May. So
inafaa ziende huko agricultural areas like Muhoroni, waende wapande rice, place like Mwea. You know, kwanza them, they do well with floods. But in places like Nairobi, mvua tu kidogo ya kutoa tu vumbi hapa na pale. Hivyo ndio tunaomba dua. zetu.
All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
Collaboration is essential for achieving lasting success. While individual efforts might produce quick results, working with others fosters sustained growth and allows for greater, more meaningful impact.
Yes, they say if you want to walk far, walk with others. If you want to walk fast, walk alone.
Yes. Collaboration is important and essential for faster growth.
Right.
That's our quote of the day.
Quote of the day, let's come back and take a look at the dailies this morning. Wanasema nini magazetini? Yes, and for the second day running this week, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta features prominently on the front pages of our dailies. And we start off with, interestingly, the Daily Nation and the Standard have used the same words for their headlines today. This is the Standard, going after Uhuru. This is the Daily Nation, going after Uhuru's parks. It is more or less the same. So going after Uhuru, what are they saying on the Standard? Political intimidation. Never before in the history of the country has a former president faced intimidation and harassment in the regime in power, by the regime in power, Under President William Ruto's administration, retired President Kenyatta has never had peace since he handed over power. Ruto's government continues to vilify and disrespect him. Now, this is according to the Standard. I'm reading directly, word by word on the front page. Continues to say, with the latest incident being a move to strip Uhuru of his constitutional parks through a bill sponsored by Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei, another of Ruto's sycophants. This mistreatment of the only surviving former head of state sets a bad precedent. And they have part of the motion by the Senator for Nandi, Samson Cherargei, before the Senate, which seeks to strip the retired president of his retirement parks. Now, this forms our question today. Do you think that the retired president should be denied his retirement parks because he has, according to some people, engaged in active politics? And that's the only story on the front page. You can continue interacting with us. That story about an alleged love affair by this 84-year-old doctor, Dr. Obwaka, leading to his death, that story is on page 2. Inasoma ni kama movie. Watu wanasema, hey, 84. Anyway, it's before the DCI. It's before the DCI. Tusiingililie mambo ambayo askari wanashughulikia. Inside pages, wanasema there's a new report that's showing why pioneer CBE learners are dropping out of school. Only grade 10, wana drop out of school, apparently. Hawatai kwenda shule. Now wanasema nini? An alarming number of learners is quietly slipping out of school system. This is a new national assessment, shows that as learners move up the system, both their numbers and performance begin to decline, revealing deep cracks. At least 151,000 plus of the very first class learners have dropped out before reaching grade 10, raising alarm over retention gaps in education. I think it's just the disparity between especially urban schools, schools which are ranked higher than others because of the lack of equipment. Remember, CBE is resource intensive. Unasikia watoto wengine wako na labs na nini, unaenda shule na hata madarasa hamna. So unashangaa tunasoma nini? Yeah. Nairobi City leads in crime cases among counties. Hapo hata wajadanganya. Ruto Mount Kenya headache allies defect as one-term chorus swells. Kuna ole Irungu Kangata alisema yeye sasa yako sawa, lakini next year haoni akikaa hapo. ODM said staff demands for 2027 coalition talks with UDA is another story. On the back page, Saka sparks Arsenal attack into life ahead of Atletico showdown. So today's Champions League story, but EPL I think has been the biggest excitement. Yesterday, you watched Man City play Everton? Hata mimi nilikuwa nimelala, lakini nilisikia kelele mingi. Nikaamka kidogo, nikaangalia, nikapata update, then Man City walikuwa 3-1 down. Nikajua basi hapa tuko sawa. Nikalala, kuamka asubuhi napata ilisha 3-3. A draw. But anyway, nonetheless, still a relief for Arsenal. Because now it means Man City have dropped 2 points, and it would mean that even the one game in hand will still not take them level to with Arsenal, even if they win. So good for Arsenal fans, and the return of Saka. that superstar, I tell you. And that is what features on the back page of the Standard. Saka sparks Arsenal attack into life ahead of Atletico showdown. Champions League football, second leg of the semi-final will be played at Arsenal Emirates Stadium. Arsenal hosting Atletico Madrid. That's the Standard today.
Daily Nation going after Uhuru's hefty packs. That's the main headline on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Angered by former President Uhuru Kenyatta's doubling in politics, including criticism of President Ruto, the ruling coalition's leaders have revived the campaign to block his state-funded benefits, reigniting a feud between rival political camps. And this story has been captured on page 4 and 5. Daily Nation is not playing with this story this morning. They call it a pushback. The Jubilee Defence Party leader claims state is denying him some retirement benefits. The package is also covered here on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei has filed a motion at the Senate seeking a review of Uhuru's benefits. This motion will be tabled today. Is it in the National Assembly or
at the Senate?
Or at the Senate, yes, but it is going to be tabled today. That annual budget for the office of the fourth retired president in the financial year ending next month is 362 million Kenyan shillings. And then they've broken it down here, all his benefits. That lump sum pension for the 2 terms that he served in office sums up to 34.7 million Kenyan shillings. 34.7 million. Monthly pension of about 1.1 million, that is 80% of the monthly salary of a president. There's an annual gratuity of 72 million shillings, 34 staff for the former president, including 2 personal assistants, 4 secretaries, 4 messengers, 4 drivers, and 4 bodyguards. 4 cars, 2 limousines, and 2 sports utility vehicles, which are replaced every 4 years. Yeah, Nashika. I wanted to say Wanita. Anyway, engine capacity of at least 3,000 cc and not exceeding 4,000 cc. Monthly allowances of 300,000 Kenyan shillings. That is house allowances amounting to 200,000 Kenyan shillings, fuel, and 2,000 Kenyan shillings. 200,000 at 2,000, surely.
Hey, 2,000 utapatia retired president, 2,000 bob.
Hiyo hata ni coins. ni sumni kwake. They say 200,000 Kenyan shillings for entertainment. Full medical cover for treatment locally and abroad.
Why are you saying like it's a lot of money? Because it's the way you're reading it.
Wewe unaweza pata hiyo wapi?
No, if you've served 10 years as president, it's not an easy job, surely.
But you know, these are not things that we talk about, especially now that he's the only surviving president. And of course, a lot of Kenyans don't quite really understand the benefits that a retired president is entitled to.
And this is actually provided for in the Constitution.
Yes.
President William Ruto will be entitled to the same once he leaves office. Whether he leaves tomorrow or he leaves after 10 years, he will be entitled to the same.
Yes.
Yes.
This is the last one. International travel allowances for 4 foreign trips every year. 4 foreign trips every year. Yes, allowances.
Kuwa president party pesa.
Kuwa rais. But really, does the former president care if at all the state were to withdraw these benefits from him?
I think he would, because he served as president. He would feel, hey, si nimefanya kazi yangu. Hiyo pesa hata kama mnafikiria niko na pesa mingi. I'm entitled to it. I am actually entitled to it because he has an office to run. The office of the retired president is an actual office in this country.
Yeah.
It exists. So he has employees that he has to pay. So you cannot deny him such kind of funds. But I'm more concerned about a tweet here by Oscar Sudi. Remember now, if you look at the papers, it looks like it's the government doing this and it's people who are allied to the president who are doing this. But Oscar Sudi, the MP for Kapsaret, says, Cherargei and these newspapers are one and the same. Don't drag us into this nonsense. We know you're colluding. So Sudi disagrees with this. That's interesting. So
Sudi
not everyone,
yes,
Sudi disagrees with this. So not everyone agrees with this motion by Samson Cherargei, which is a very interesting turn of events. Yeah.
Letu jicho too. We'll be looking out for that. Why SHA numbers don't add up? It's another report here. that when the government replaced the National Health Insurance Fund with the Social Health Authority in 2024, the pitch to Kenyans was that NHIF had failed and the new, better designed scheme would cover more people and offer broader benefits. But 2 years later, SHA is spending far more than it's collecting, and hospitals and patients are complaining. This is a report and a story that has been captured on page 10 of the Daily Nation this morning. On the top strip, debt crisis as 1.3 trillion shillings to pay interest on loans. That the government plans to spend 1.4 trillion shillings of the 4.8 trillion shillings budget for the year 2026-2027 financial year on interest payment for maturing loans. According to estimates presented to Parliament on April 30, the state will borrow more to cover the 1.1 trillion shillings deficit. Remember, Finance Bill 2026 has already been tabled in Parliament, and sasa tuko kwa ile phase ya public participation. Kenyans are quiet about it. I don't even think they understand that there's a bill already tabled in Parliament that will go public participation.
Because you remember the kind of conversations we had, 2024, finance bill, and you said, hey, Gen Z wanaelewa budget making process. They're really concerned about it. Yesterday, it's only the Star that had the issues around finance bill because they talked about a 5% tax on mitumba.
Yes.
Now, that was the only invitation to discuss the finance bill, at least up until now. But ni kama watu no one cares. Tuli move on. Na munaambiwa mutapigwa mikwaju.
What was the 5% on mitumba about? Was it captured as a bad or a good thing?
It was captured as just one of those highlights that, yes, to look out for. Actually, most of the finance bill talks about a reduction in taxation, slowdown in pushing for taxes, but there's that 5% for mitumba. Because you remember the discussion was that we need to encourage local textile manufacturing.
Yes.
And so that is one of the reasons why we're trying to slow down on the second-hand clothes. So yes, to impose taxes on them.
Yeah, I think that's a good tax, because now it's going to put us in a same playing field, the salaried workers and of course who are tax compliant, and also these people in informal sector, because now the government is arguing. We digress. Please allow us. We digress, kidogo. But the government is now arguing that for a very long time, mitumba sellers have not been paying tax. So, upon imports, there will be 5% tax mandatory, such that whether you make losses in your business, whether you make profits, that's your business.
But then again, the mitumba sellers will simply transfer that cost to whoever buys.
Consumers.
And the consumers in Kenya, I think, prefer mitumba.
Yes.
More than new manufactured clothes.
Mitumba pia inaweka watu at the same playing field, because whether you're rich or poor, kila mtu anakaa smart.
So hiyo tax itarudi tu kwa mfuko yako, wewe tu ndio utalipia hiyo.
Yes. All right, Oburu's ODM faction seeks to heal the rift in new power play. That's another story on page 6. And on the back page, Sawe to athletes, train hard, run clean and win easy. Nandi County celebrates new London Marathon champion in Kapsabet. Of course, remember, this is Sawe. Remember his name, Sawe, Sebastian Sawe, the first man ever to win a marathon in London, 1 hour, 59 minutes, 30 seconds. That's the Daily Nation.
All right, from the Daily Nation, we take a look at the Star, which today, being different, is not for sale. And this one steers clear of the big discussion about Uhuru Kenyatta and his parks and what should happen and his involvement in politics or otherwise. It talks about matters mega dams. Kenya bets big on 10 mega dams to secure its future. Facilities are under construction at different stages of progress, and they've put a picture there of one of them, which is the Karemeno 2 Dam, which holds about 22.6 billion litres of water, serving Ruiru, Juja, Gatundu, Kiambu, Githurai, and Nairobi. And elsewhere, a farmer in Lukubai irrigation scheme examines his sorghum crop, and these dams are supposed to aid in irrigation. So matters water supply and irrigation given prominence on the front page of the Star as everyone else talks about politics and Uhuru Kenyatta. Another story here on page 9, family planning shows signs of strain as few seek contraceptives. Watu siku hizi hawatumii contraceptives. Shida iko wapi? Especially, anyway, wacha niseme. Page 9, your story. Pale juu, how state plans to reduce food imports and lift local production, matters agriculture. On page 2, they still talk about the Monica Kimani murder. And the story there is how lies exposed Joey as heartless, calculating killer. This is years after he was convicted and sentenced. He's serving his jail sentence in prison already, but the story finds itself back to the front page. And this paper comes with a MyGov pullout for all government tenders and jobs. So grab yourself a copy of The Star today. Being a Tuesday, it is free, fresh, independent, different.
All right, let's take a look at Taifa Leo. Minofu ya Uhuru yaendewa. Wanaita uhasama kwamba Cherargei awasilisha hoja ya kupunguza au kuyafuta marupurupu ya Kenyatta kama njia ya kumwadhibu rais huyo wa 4 anayedaiwa kushiriki siasa zinazowalenga wanasiasa wa mrengo fulani. Wakati huo huo, marupurupu ya Uhuru ya kuanzia Julai yamepunguzwa kwa shilingi milioni 86, 86 million. It has been, yani benefits the former President Uhuru Kenyatta has been reduced by 86 million Kenyan shillings. Senator Cherargei awasilisha hoja katika Seneti akitaka marupurupu ya rais mstaafu yafutwe au yapunguzwe. Anyway. Vidokezo zaidi, masharti mapya ya kundi la Sifuna kule chini. Linda Mwananchi wawapa Linda Ground masharti yasiyotekelezeka iwapo wanataka warudiane. Mwanamke anayehusishwa na kifo cha Daktari Obwaka ndani. Safari ya imani ya Kang'ata. Gavana atosa mguu mmoja katika upinzani baada ya kutangaza hata tetea kiti mwaka ujao katika UDA. On the top strip now, there's another very interesting story here. Hotuba ya Ruto Tanzania leo yazua ubishi Kenya. The president will be speaking to members of parliament in Tanzania. And Linda Mwananchi wasema rais hafai kujihusisha na watu wasiotii haki. Now they make reference to the October election, and they say that election was not free and fair, that if President William Ruto is at all going to address the members of parliament in Tanzania, then Anna supports whatever happened.
The violation of human rights.
Yeah.
And you see, it's very curious that the report by Judge Chande on what happened after the October 29th election was just released last week and handed over to President Samia Suluhu Hassan last week.
Yes.
And it said 518 people were killed. Yeah, that's the report there. Alafu less than a week later unakuja kusema wapigwe mikwaju.
Yes.
Okay. Sijui tuseme nini.
It's the lack of Twitter aje.
Even emotional intelligence, if we may call it that.
Word.
Yeah?
Lack of emotional intelligence.
Anyway, I know she is president, but yeah, jana it was a bit off.
At least read the room.
It was a bit off.
Arsenal na Atletico ni roho mkononi. Ni masuala ya spoti pia imezungumziwa hapo katika ukurasa wa 13 na ukurasa wa 20 wa gazeti hili. Taifa Leo.
All right. People Daily focuses on politics today, on the main stories about CSs and top officials who are eyeing 2027 seats in quiet political moves. It means that most of these ones on the front page of the People Daily will have to exit, leave their jobs early, probably I think by end of January next year, because of campaigns. Public officers and state officers who are seeking elective seats are required by law to leave their offices at least 6 months before the election. So most of these faces may not be CSs or senior government officials by January next year as they await elections. Also inside the People Daily talks about from the newsroom to corridors of power. Journalists who are gunning for elective posts in 2027. Seme umeamua. You're yet to declare. You're consulting your people.
I feel like I am too mouthy for parliament.
No, but they look for people who are mouthy because they need debaters in parliament.
Wanaweza nifukuza.
So interesting stories about people who are looking at seeking elective seats. So those are the stories locally. We still have the Business Daily.
We do. Yeah. Hii story ya CSS inanishangaza sana because now what if they resign and then they fail? Sasa you lose your job like that.
Yes. One thing, you're not even certain that your current employer will be back. You see, then again, after every election, cabinet is usually disbanded.
Yes.
And you have to get a new team to form cabinet.
Yeah.
So even if you stay there, you're not guaranteed that you get your
but
job.
what if the employer retains the seat? What if?
Yes, but he does not guarantee you that you'll be in his next cabinet.
But unajua nini, one thing I've come to realize about this government is they reward loyalty. So if at all these guys have been loyal to the president, then in one way or the other, even if they won't be in the cabinet, then they will be somewhere. still in the government.
Serving at the behest of the president.
Yes. Business Daily now. KDF gets 6 billion shillings for Israeli air defense amid Iran war. That Kenya has secured a 6.1 billion shillings Israeli-backed loan to acquire a high-tech missile defense system, strengthening its ability to counter aerial threats amid rising regional insecurity and concerns that the US-Israel war against Iran could spill over into the Horn of Africa. Now, the funding for the financial year starting July 2026 marks a 79.4% increase from the 3.4 billion shillings that the Ministry of Defense is expected to receive from Tel Aviv in the current financial year ending June. And this is according to a Treasury Budget report. This story has been covered extensively on page 2 of the Business Daily. DP World avoids 520 million shillings Kenyan claim in phone sacking row. That global cargo logistics firm DP World has secured a court victory in a 520 million shillings claim by a former manager based in Nairobi who alleged she was dismissed irregularly via a phone call. She's called Purity Irene, and she has sued the global port operator DHL Dubai and 2 Dubai-based managers, alleging she was unlawfully sacked on August 28, 2024. This story is on page 2. You can grab a copy of the Business Daily this morning. Ujue ndani kunasema vipi, and that's the Business Daily.
All right, because of time, let's go straight to regional papers. We start off with Uganda. The New Vision talks about matters health on the front page. Hospitals with injections for HIV prevention. Tumezungumzia hii injection iko tayari Kenya nafikiri, lakini hatujasikia iko wapi. Uganda wanakuambia hospitali wako nayo tayari. Yes. Alafu hapo chini kwa the front page of the New Vision kuna jamaa waliiba 7 laptops. Guess from where? The Bank of Uganda. Ni kama uende Central Bank of Kenya muibe laptop.
Wow.
Kuna kujaribu na kuna kujaribu zaidi. On the Daily Monitor, you remember that sovereignty bill where they were saying how much money you can come with to the country, NGOs, how much involvement you can do in a foreign country. Now, that's what they'll be voting on today in the parliament in Kampala, and they're talking about how your MP will vote today on the sovereignty bill, which is causing quite a lot of debate. So that's as far as Uganda is concerned. In Tanzania, it's all about William Ruto and his address and his 2-day visit there and his anticipated address to the Parliament of Tanzania. So the Citizen, on the front page you have a picture of President William Ruto and his host, Samia Suluhu Hassan. Matters trade, Tanzania and Kenya set May deadline on barriers. Najua kanga wakiongea kuhusu non-tariff barriers, you can cross the borders, you can do what. Wameongea sana lakini nothing happens. But anyway, that's a lot of focus on that. Gazeti lingine kule Tanzania ni Mwananchi, gazeti la Mwananchi. Na nashangaa gazeti imeenda pia Mwananchi kwa mbali kidogo. Habari ile ile, Tanzania itapita salama, Ruto asema. Rais wa Kenya Daktari William Ruto yuko nchini Tanzania kwa ziara ya kiserikali, na jana alikutana na mwenyeji wake Rais Samia Suluhu Hassan. Katika mazungumzo yao, Daktari Ruto ambaye leo atahutubia bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania alisema Tanzania itapita salama licha ya vurugu. Unajua shida ilikuwa Rais Ruto alikuwa amesema Kenya is way ahead.
I was going there.
Kenya is way ahead.
Coming there, yes.
The rest of them are struggling. Walikasirika sana. Nafikiri, I think that is part of the reason why he's going to Tanzania. Ile tu kuambia hapana sikumani. Unasikia sasa hapa anasema ati Tanzania wako mbele.
Na unakumbuka ni yule Minister for Works in Tanzania, anaitwa Abdalla somebody. Abdalla Ulega. Alikuwa amesema as far as is concerned, Kenya and Tanzania tuko at par. So
tusiringe.
Anashangaa ni nini unasema ati you're better than us.
Lakini President Ruto amekuwa kichoma sana. Kidogo akasema watu wa Nigeria hawazungumzi. Kidogo Tanzania na Uganda wako nyuma yetu. Kidogo.
You know, but unaona
inabidi aende kujitetea kwa bunge ya Tanzania.
Yes. Uko Nigeria pia unajua maybe hawajui our sense of humor, because maybe our president understand our sense of humor, sisi tutaelewa.
No, after Tanzania they just need to invite him to Nigeria. He goes and addresses
the parliament. But did he lie though? His story in Nigeria, did he lie?
In English you can't understand what they're talking about.
You can't. Ati they play. My brother. Abego.
All right, let's come back home. So in Tanzania, the focus is on President Ruto. And remember, we'll be beaming live that address to the parliament in Dodoma, starting at 11 a.m. right here on TV47. So do stand by for that. The karakacha sasa. Tuanze makatun hapa Kenya. Gazeti la The People Daily, cartoon by Stano. Kuna jamaa hapa anaitwa salary increment. Anapatiana 12% increment, general wage increase, lakini anatoa kwa mfuko na mkono mwingine. You see, I care about you, anamwambia hivyo. This one talks about the president's pronouncement on Labor Day.
Yeah.
The 12% general wage increase. Unaona kama utaongezewa 12%?
I hope. I hope.
Sasa ukiongezewa, alafu finance bill inakuja inatoa ingine hapo kando. So that's a cartoon on The People Daily.
This is why I support your taxation ya sana hawa watu wa mitumba. Kabisa.
Sasa si ndio hivyo inatolewa kwa mfuko. Unaongezewa huku 12% inatolewa upande mwingine.
The government is trying to expand the tax base such that they don't, that's my own understanding, such that they don't overtax salaried workers. Because sasa waki increase your
ni wengi watalipa.
Ni wengi watalipa. Hatuta feel your burden. Right. Anyway, the Star, kuna a map of Kenya here, and there's also President William Ruto. Kuna Japan na kuna Singapore. Anajaribu kupanga ni wapi atatuweka as Kenyans. Will we go Japan way or will we go Singapore?
He's trying to lay the road to Singapore. Inapita hivi. Itabidi tupitie Japan ni kama.
Japan lazima tupitie tukienda Singapore. But he's also commended Japan for a lot of things. Ni kama ana admire Japan sana. So is it Japan or is it Singapore?
Zote ziko sawa. The cartoon on the Star has this governor, a caricature of the governor of Murang'a. This is the Standard. A caricature of the governor for Murang'a, Irungu Kangata. Amewachana na ile mpira ya UDA. Sasa anaangalia mipira ingine, lakini definitely ya opposition. And this one, you know, the interesting bit is that he released this statement when the president was in his county. Yeye akatoka huko akamwacha akakuja Nairobi akasoma statement akasema hiyo chama ya rais mimi. Kwa sasa hii mimi niko hapo lakini next year msinitafute huko.
Stay fearless.
That's a Standard.
Finally, the Daily Nation talks about what is happening in South Africa. The xenophobia trend that has currently mad that country, and wanasema hapa it's not that bad really.
That's a caricature of Ramaphosa.
Yes, Cyril Ramaphosa, the president. And they're chasing away immigrants in South Africa as the world is watching.
It's not that bad.
It's not
It's not that bad.
Surely. You know, it's interesting. I know we are out of time, but just to mention it, last year there was competitions for Miss South Africa. So there's this lady who the mom is, of course, South African, and then the dad is from Nigeria. So when this lady had advanced to top 10 of Miss South Africa competition, South Africans came against this particular lady and started chasing her to go back to her country. Wow. So Nigeria, of course, wakamwambia, come home. So she went and contested in Nigeria for that Miss Universe seat. She won in Nigeria, and upon going to represent Nigeria at the Universe stage, she came out top 2.
Wow. It's not that bad, really.
It's not that bad, really.
All right, before we take a break, let's take a quick look at our traffic situation in the city. Nilikuwa nafikiria utanichezea ile bumper ya traffic lakini kama anyway ni sawa tu. Sasa tuko na Thika Road. A bit of traffic at Kahawa and Dani heading towards town. A bit more at just before you get to Kasarani, that Kamiti Road. Another long stretch after Safari Park heading towards town. That stretch from Kasarani, Garden City, all the way to KCA University. Hapo imeshikana. Because now imeshikana all the way from Safari Park hadi Pangani interchange. So Thika Road, if you're using it, poleni sijui niwaambie nini, sio mimi. I'm just telling you what Google Maps is showing me. At least Kiambu is not that bad. Traffic, a bit of traffic after DCI heading towards that Muthaiga area. But after that, it's smooth into town. Jogoo Road, ile mahali ya kawaida tu Makadara, pale Mbotela, Likoni Road. After that, a bit of traffic at Shauri Moyo. But as you get to Mudhurwa, Machakos bus station, not so bad. And even the CBD, Haile Selassie Avenue is looking comfortable this morning. The other area mahali kuna kuanga na shida mingi ni Eastern Bypass, areas around Utawala, pale Benedicta, pale Astral, heading towards KQ. Imeshikana. Na ukifika karibu KQ, ile roundabout ya KQ headquarters, hapo utakaka. But after that, it's not so bad. A bit of traffic at Cabanas. Mombasa Road is looking green all the way from the airport to the CBD. The other side of town, Wayaki Way, ABC Place towards town is good. A bit of traffic on sections of Ngong Road, Pale Junction, and Pale Prestige Plaza. But after that, it's smooth all the way into the CBD. That's the traffic situation in Nairobi today.
All right, today being a Tuesday, we'll be having Biashara Tuesday, of course, later on. It's also a tech day today. We'll be having a conversation about tech. And on Biashara Tuesday, we're talking about second-hand clothes, the mitumba business. What do you need to know about mitumba business if you want to get into this biashara? It's doing quite well. It's booming as of 2026. They're taking up space in the digital space, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook Marketplace. But we'll be expecting them to also comment on the 5% tax that will be imposed on imports that are coming in the country. That will be coming later on from 8 a.m. But
State of the Nation today, Wakili Harrison Kinyanjui will be in studio alongside Michael Gwanda, political analyst, and Hesbon Owila, also a political analyst. Very nice discussions. Should Uhuru Kenyatta be denied his retirement parks? That's a big question. And what do you make of that statement by Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan? Gen Z wakikuja upande hii, mikwaju. Wakirudi nyumbani, mikwaju. Yes, we'll be looking at that. So do start tweeting us on X at TV47 Digital. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and YouTube, where we're streaming live. It's TV47 Kenya. Hashtag TV47 Breakfast. Hashtag StoryYotu.
all right.
See you after the break.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m.
Good morning.
You have my rent?
Leo jioni kama tutakuwa tumelipa rent, nauza hii simu yako.
Hamna pesa. I need 3 G's to make my nails today.
Sasa hivi natuhusu aje?
Can I order now? Do you ship? Can I get blinking ones?
Mimi nilikuwa na trade. Nimewekelea kitele yangu. Kitele yangu na trade. Ikikunyuma.
Oh my God. He left me. Nitumie ni line.
Uko nje kuna wifi.
Why? High five?
Wait, so what do we call this dish again?
I have no idea.
The cucumbers are there specifically for my beauty routine.
Tamulini kero umeka kwa beauty product.
Na ameenda.
Tunafaa tukuwe na logo yetu. Like, si ni brand already.
You won't entertain divas.
No. I'm not dealing with a man child.
Amazing. Nishapenda hii energy.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
My father used to tell me that a hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. Booyah! We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time, and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in Eastern Central Africa and its environs.
Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m.
This is a very serious place.
I see that.
Surely. Hey, Nyumba.
This is the place.
Just for a few days.
Rule number 2.
Kwani Google inajua maisha yangu wewe?
That's my seat.
It's a chair. It was hers.
You're new here?
Yes.
You learned the rhythm.
This place is run by structure. Structure.
It is a system. Ni venye tu ni system haisikizi.
And what happens if something you haven't chosen enters your day?
I remove it.
That's not always going to be possible here.
Then you are going to have a problem.
Noted.
What are you planning? To escape from a resort?
This is not a resort, my friend. This is a storage.
Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47.
Nairobi, where the hustle never sleeps and neither do the scammers.
Link up, we are talking about something that's affecting all of us. We are talking trust.
We're diving into the campus life.
Stay fresh, stay safe.
Stay linked up.
My father used to tell me that a hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. Ooh, yeah. We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time, and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in Eastern Central Africa and its environs.
This is a very serious place.
I see that. Surely. Hey, Nyumba.
This is the place.
Just for a few days.
Rule number 2.
Kwani Google inajua maisha yangu wewe?
That's my seat.
It's a chair. It was hers.
You're new here?
Yes.
You learned the rhythm.
This place is run by structure. Structure.
It is a system. Ni venye tu huu ni system isikizi.
And what happens if something you haven't chosen enters your day?
Then you move it.
That's not always going to be possible here.
Then you are going to have a problem.
Noted.
What are you planning? To escape from a resort?
This is not a resort, my friend. This is a storage.
You have to be very careful. Fake money can kill business.
Na leo mko rada yangu.
Small money, kapesa kadogo, big behavior.
I only have big notes.
Alikuwa anatafuta courage.
Yaani nafaje kutengeneza kachumbari na manyanya zinakaa hivi? Ona kiki ni kama kiwaru.
Hiyo inaitwa commitment to the lie. Amejicommit.
Ndio hiyo. Mpatie.
Unajua kama una mtu kitu, hata tu salamu ya kawaida inakaa kama reminder.
Habari yako?
Sintalipa kesho.
Kesho gani when?
Si kesho ya kesho ya tomorrow.
Your turn.
Mzee inabidi nikae mchoka.
Inabidi ni madeni.
Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m.
You have to be very careful. Fake money can kill business.
Na leo mko rada yangu.
Small money, kapesa kadogo, big behavior.
I only have big notes.
Alikuwa anatafuta courage.
Yaani nafaje kutengeneza kachumbari na manyanya zinakaa hivi? Ona kiki ni kama kiwaru.
Hiyo inaitwa commitment to the lie. Amejicommit.
Ndio hiyo. Mpatie.
Unajua kama una mtu kitu, hata tu salamu ya kawaida inakaa kama reminder.
Habari yako?
Sintalipa kesho.
Kesho gani when?
Si kesho ya kesho ya tomorrow.
Your turn.
Mzee inabidi nikae mchoka.
Inabidi ni madeni.
Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Sundays at 8:30 p.m.
Good morning.
Right, should Uhuru Kenyatta be denied his retirement benefits for engaging in active politics? That's the question we're asking this morning. President Uhuru Kenyatta finds himself for the second day running on the front pages. Motion is already, I think, will be presented before the Senate today, sponsored by Nandi Senator Samson Cherarkei, seeking to have the retired president denied his retirement benefits for allegedly engaging in active politics. And that's the biggest conversation we're having today. So many different people have already come out to defend the retired president, among them leaders from his own Jubilee party. Let's listen into what they had to say. We'll also be sampling some views from people on the streets of Nairobi shortly.
The political standoff between former President Uhuru Kenyatta and allies of President William Ruto is rapidly intensifying. Last Friday, speaking on phone during a Jubilee meeting in Narok, Kenyatta hit back at critics who have been urging him to stay out of politics. Ruto's allies fired back, with some threatening to revoke Kenyatta's retirement benefits. Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei has drafted a bill seeking to slash or scrap Kenyatta's retirement perks, proposing that the funds be redirected to public development projects. He is also calling for a full audit of state resources allocated to the former president, with a report to be tabled in Parliament within 60 days. But Uhuru Kenyatta's allies have brushed off those threats.
To weaponize such provisions for political liquidation is to cross a line that no responsible leadership should ever approach. To those issuing these threats, we say this clearly and without hesitation. We dare you.
Our party leader is going nowhere, and our party leader will continue to express himself. It is his constitutional right. In fact, you can go ahead and do what you please.
Jubilee Deputy Party Leader Fred Matiang'i has condemned what he describes as an increasingly hostile and disrespectful rhetoric targeting Kenyatta.
The retired president makes one phone call, and the government screams the whole weekend. What kind of people are these? On a weekend, when senior members of your party are announcing that they will not defend their seats on your party's ticket, when it is clearly displayed to the world that you are a sinking ship, would you be spending your time insulting your predecessors?
However, government spokesman Isaac Mwaura has defended President Ruto, arguing that leaders should offer guidance and not public criticism.
Kama rais ameweza kustaafu, ni vizuri awache kwamba yule ambaye yupo afanye kazi yake inavyofaa, ili kuwe na umoja, kuwe na utangamano, na kama kuna mambo yote ambayo pengine yanatokea, basi kuna kuwa na mawasiliano.
The growing dispute over a retired president's role in active politics has also drawn in opposition leaders.
Wanapiga vita kabisa amefanya makosa. Paka wanasema hadi sisi tukiongea, hadi wakati Uhuru analipa wafanyikazi wake wala wanakamua ng'ombe analipa pia sisi. Hadi ndio tuongee lazima tupewe pesa na Uhuru.
Achana na Uhuru Kenyatta. Shida zako sio Uhuru Kenyatta. Shida zako zilianza na kuua vijana. Kuua vijana kiolela.
Matiang'i has urged Kenyans to make decisive choices about the country's next leadership.
Do you want another 5 years of this arrogance and self-destructive hubris? Another 5 years of that?
Sydney Chazima, TV47.
Gazeti la Taifa Leo nasema minofu ya Uhuru yaendewa. It's the biggest discussion on the front page of the dailies. Let's sample some of the views of people on this same discussion on the streets of Nairobi. Good morning, Mudhoni. Mudhoni Brand is our reporter on the streets. Good morning, Mudhoni. Bring us up to speed with what people are saying about what's on the front pages this morning.
A very good morning to you, Fred Indimuli and Ann Odida in studio. And let me tell you, if you want to know what Nairobians are thinking about and are talking about, you don't start in the offices. You start here where the conversations start. We are coming to you live from the heart of the city here in Ambassador, where local vendors have already laid out today's newspapers. And today's local dailies are anything but quiet because all of them have a name you cannot afford to miss. Retired President Uhuru Kenyatta. And I think this has been an ongoing conversation because we were having this conversation with residents in Ngara yesterday because we were asking them, is retired President Uhuru Kenyatta justified to remain in active politics? So for now, tunakukujia hapa kutoka Ambassador. Behind me, hawa wanaitwa waheshimiwa. Hili ni bunge la wananchi. And when I got here, I found that this was their exact topic. Talk about alignment. So I'm going to speak to them. Sijatayarisha ni nani nitaongea na yeye. So we are going to just speak to you randomly. Habari yako, good morning.
Mzuri.
You are live on TV47. Tafadhali angalia kamera. Okay, tafadhali angalia kamera. When your mlima side almost comes out, all right? Okay. So today on TV47, our question of the day is, should Uhuru Kenyatta be denied his retirement benefits?
Thank you, TV47, for giving me this opportunity as ambassador Bunge la Mwananchi. My name is Dennis Miruka, and I'm also a political analyst. Actually, it is a very good question now. It is vital in the country whether the retired president should continue with politics. I can say yes or no, but when we look at our situation as a country, we need somebody like Uhuru Kenyatta as the president to give us an advisory opinion. You know, the previous election, the president gave us an advice how Kenyans we were supposed to vote. And actually we have seen it happening, and most Kenyans are regretting. You know, it is not about Uhuru. Yes, they can decide and go to parliament because and vote against him. We know our parliament is not independent. It is compromised. Yes, they can decide and make sure that they have taken all of his benefits. And at the end of the day, what matters about Kenya? For us, we are having an opinion that the president should be given an opportunity to advise the country. And actually, what the president has done, like any other person who has retired from active politics, the president is trying to tell us that if you try to choose someone A, B, he can take the country forward.
So according to you, you think that retired President Uhuru Kenyatta is still entitled to his retirement benefits?
Yes, he's entitled. Even when you look at our constitution, the constitution has given us a formula. And actually, we are there to interpret the constitution. What I've seen, like Senator Jerigay is trying to interpret, it is outside the constitution. Actually, the framers of the constitution, they were very clear that once you serve 2 terms, I can see the intention was that after 2 terms, actually 10 years, you have done something, and he has an opinion, he has an experience. President Uhuru Kenyatta, he has goodwill of this country, and his opinion is just having one vote. Even if he says that he's supporting A person or a B person, we are 55 million Kenyans. We are the same people who want to decide. But at the moment, we need the president's opinion and advice. And he has come out clean and saying that let us try this person.
All right.
As Kenyans, if we can do that, I know we are going to have a good Kenya. Because if you see these people around here, they don't even have a transport to go where they are supposed to work. It is because the economy is training us.
Thank you. Because as I can see your many, let me hear from your speaker. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're live on TV47. According to you, should retired President Uhuru Kenyatta still continue receiving his retirement benefits?
According to me, yes, because Kenya is a democratic state.
Yes, it is.
And he's entitled to his own opinion. And as a retired president, we respect him. And the only thing that he's trying to tell us is the country is not taking the right direction. And again, he's not involved in the active politics. If at all he was involved in the active politics, that is what at least we could say there is something wrong here. But he's only giving an opinion of where the country is and where the country should go. So to me, he's entitled to. Yeah.
You know, in the last year's finance bill, the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta received a total of 448 million. Now, in this year's 2025-2026 finance bill, they are literally cutting it into half, into 228 million. What do you think about the taxpayer? Some taxpayers would say, oh, this is nice, a cut when ndio sisi tusikatwe pesa mingi. What do you think about that?
I think that is politics. They're playing politics with the retired president, because at the same time we see the allocation in state houses going higher. So if they really care about the taxpayer, why is the allocation in state house going higher? Yeah.
Alright, asante sana. Wacha tuongeleshe huyu mrembo hapa. I think she's the only queen in this kingdom. Good morning.
Mama yao. Morning to you.
Habari mama yao?
Mzuri sana.
You are live on TV47. Tafadhali niambie, should retired President Uhuru Kenyatta continue receiving his retirement benefits?
Of course.
Kwa nini? Ongea hata Kiswahili usiogope.
Kwa nini asipate? Shida ni nini imefanya yeye asipate benefits zake kama retired president? Kuna shida gani?
Kwa hivyo hata aendelee kujihusisha na active politics?
Yes. Kuchukua ama kuangalia inji vile inaendelea na kupatia na opinion ya vile inji inaendelea na vile inatakikana kuendelea, na ni nani anaona anaweza peleka hii inji mbele. Si vibaya, sioni ubaya.
Alright, asante sana. There you have it, Fred Ndimuli and Ann Odida. Those are the feelings of Kenyans right here at Bunge la Mwananchi. Back to you two in studio.
All right, thank you so much, Modoni Brenda, and for talking to Bunge la Mwananchi. And I think opinion there is clear, that they don't see any problem with Uhuru Kenyatta receiving his retirement benefits. Allow me to introduce my panel this morning. Hesbon Owila, a political analyst. Karibu sana. It's been a while. It's good to have you back in studio.
More than 1 year.
Yeah, it's good to have you back in studio. Next to Owila, a familiar face on this panel, Wakili Harrison Kenyanjui. It's Karibu sana.
Thank you very much. Good.
Also, Michael Lagwanda, political analyst, joins us this morning. It's a pleasure to have you in studio, sir.
It's a pleasure too, thank you.
Yes, today I want to look at it politically, and of course with the lawyer here will tell us matters to do with the law. But what political dividend does anyone stand to gain from such a move? I can see opinion is already divided, because Oscar Sudi, who's very close to the president, has distanced himself from this and says, Cherargei ni mambo yako, you seem to be colluding with the media.
Well, I think it's ludicrous, so to speak, if you look at how they are reacting to this. President Uhuru Kenyatta merely made a phone call, spoke to Kenyans in Narok, and then you have a senator who flips. Sometimes he makes very substantive statements that are in the interest of the public, but other times you ask yourself, does he even understand the legislation that takes place in either the National Assembly or the Senate? Because if you look at it from a legal perspective, first of all, there is an act, the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act of 2013, which is very clear that you can withdraw these benefits or revise them. But the Constitution is also very clear. Article 151 of the Constitution is very clear that for a president who is alive, you can't revise any part. Due to him downwards or to his disadvantage. So legally, I don't think he's standing on a solid ground. I mean, that is just making too much noise. And I think sometimes most of these, folks who are aligned to the president, either in UDA or Kenya Kwanza, I think they outdo themselves in making themselves just a nuisance. And I don't think it adds to any political capital to the president. But coming back on the political front, I mean, if President Uhuru Kenyatta deems it fit to speak about issues of national concern, it is within his own right to do that. This was a political party issue, and you know the history of the Kenya Kwanza government with the Jubilee Party. The first thing they went for, they wanted to cripple Uhuru by taking over the Jubilee Party. Legally, they couldn't do that, and the Jubilee Party is still with President Uhuru Kenyatta. But most importantly is they're giving President Uhuru Kenyatta the legitimate reason to start addressing public issues. And I think that's now political suicide. Because just before the election, it's the same President Uhuru Kenyatta who warned Kenyans that elect my deputy president at your own peril. And it seems like we didn't listen. We said to Pangwingwi, and we said, we are a hustler nation, we'll enthrone President William Ruto, and we did exactly that. So if things were working for the current regime, I think everyone would be up in arms, telling President Uhuru Kenyatta that, you don't have to speak. There is no legitimate reason why you should speak to issues. But as we speak today, what they're giving President Uhuru Kenyatta is legitimacy, public interest legitimacy, to come back again and give us counsel. And in the run-up to the 2027 general election, I think that's the last thing that the Kenya Kwanza government would want, because it's not like if you walk down the streets, Kenyans are very happy. So anyone who is coming to speak against this regime would definitely get the backing of Kenyans. And when you have the likes of Senator Cherangei attacking President Uhuru Kenyatta, they essentially emboldening Kenyans to call for President Uhuru Kenyatta to speak more.
Okay. Wakili, there's always this debate on where the law stands on this issue. Because on one hand, there's a restriction on politics within the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act that Section 6 restricts a retired president from active engagement in political party activities beyond a prescribed period, of which
6 months.
6 months, of which President Uhuru Kenyatta has already done so. He's a party leader of Jubilee, and he's done so openly. He's attended Jubilee party events, meaning that he's actively involved in politics. Now come to Section 151 of the Constitution. Article 151, yes, the retirement benefits payable to a former president and a former deputy president. The facilities available to and privileges enjoyed by them shall not be varied to their disadvantage during their lifetime. So which takes precedence?
The Constitution.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I wholly agree with what Hesbon has said. That this is a misadventure which Kenya Kwanza, and very likely President Ruto, stung by the remarks that Uhuru made on telephone, no less. I mean, he wasn't there physically in Narok or Kajiado or any other place. He made an expression so that the conflict between Section 4, subsection 1, A, Roman 1, 2 of the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act and Article 38(1) of the Constitution, as read with Article 151, you can see that that conflict will be resolved in favor of the Constitution, because then the Constitution says that there is no law, there is no act, no omission that is outside or in conflict with the Constitution that can be valid. To that extent, Cherargei is on a fatal, perilous, I should add, misadventure. Because the moment he takes that path, just like Hesbon has said, this is going to generate a very negative domino effect on the Kenya Kwanza government. Because the Kenyans largely, and like Hesbon has said, out there in the streets, out there among the Kenyan people, there is this dissatisfaction with the political leadership, which they are blind to. And you now juxtapose that, you put that against Cherargei's remarks, which make you wonder, I mean, don't these people have any face-saving grace or the ability to just sit down and reflect? I mean, what will be this? I mean, they're jumping into it headlong, not aware that this is going to cost them huge political capital. And they go on to it. However, excuse me, I think the action of the president, coupled with Jubilee in Narok and the face of Matiang'i there, brought these nightmare experiences which Ruto had. Suddenly, a wound that had festered during the last period of Uhuru's reign, or Uhuru's tenure, I should say, then opened. Because if you remember, towards the end of Uhuru's tenure, he felt let down by a deputy president, who he was then saying, all you do is go out there, tanga. And President Uhuru felt let down, in the sense that President Uhuru, URP and TNA, they had said that, look, we will form this political behemoth, that we will go out there, 10 years for you and 10 years for me. And so Uhuru had played out that in the 10-year period. And so he becomes extremely flustered and, should I say, frustrated by this deputy president who, come on, don't you have the promise of 10 years? So why would you go out there and I'm going to campaign for you, or at least Obama style, Clinton and the likes, and I'm going to, ensure that you have your tenure, and I'll keep to that. And so Ruto, unsurprisingly, then came back and told the Mount Kenya people, I have to remind you, you have this promise. So against that, Uhuru felt, and in my humble view, very honestly and genuinely, let down by a deputy president who was not living up to the promise and the expectation that he had, legitimate expectation. So when he felt let down, he got Matiang'i. And Matiang'i's role was to fill in the gap that the deputy president, he likes or he doesn't, I mean, it's the honest truth. And that was because Uhuru wanted to deliver. And the deputy president viewed that as a rejection. So he came into the election period having these wounds. In my humble view, he should have gone for counseling.
The president?
Yes, with tremendous respect. Because there were these psychological wounds that he had suffered. For 3 months, I should say that he shouldn't have.
So you feel this is a President William Ruto pushing for this?
Absolutely, absolutely. It bears all the signs and everything that, attaches. And coming from Cherargei, with tremendous respect to Cherargei, just like Hezbollah has said, Cherargei sometimes comes up with all these noble ideas that the Kenyan people would say, but his turnaround is also something that makes me question. I mean, how about the consistency of your own commitment to your own self in terms of personal integrity? Because he says, the deputy president, you should not be impeached. And then he turns around and says, for whatever reason, maybe he receives a telephone call from the president, yeah, you should be impeached. I mean, that inconsistency is not what I would expect of someone who has and bears that integrity at personal level. So now coming back to the issue that you asked, now, how do you reconcile Section 4, subsection 1, Roman 1, Roman 2, Roman 3 of the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act? What does he say? That the National Assembly can pass a resolution to strip the retired President Uhuru of his retirement benefits. Under that act, specified in the schedule, you have to have 4 cooks, 4 drivers, and so on and so forth. There's a myriad of benefits that are there. How do you reconcile that power? And they have to have a 2/3 vote, by the way, according to the law. Article 38 of the Constitution, sub-article 1, which confers on the president the right to engage in, form a political party. The supremacy of the Constitution will trump as against this. Okay. And I believe any sensible legislator in the National Assembly will tell Cherargei, please down your tools immediately, because you swore to uphold the Constitution and its supremacy, which is binding on him. And I should remind him to read Article 3 of the Constitution, that it is binding upon him at that individual level. So in my humble view, the provisions of Section 4 of the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act is unconstitutional. And someone can go to court on behalf of the president. You cannot muzzle the political voice of the president using the instrumentality of Section 4 of the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act. And he'll be declared unconstitutional.
Okay. Bwana Gwanda, many would say then this is just a misadventure by Senator Cherargei. He's known to have even proposed the extension of presidential term limits, which is still alive in Parliament. And many people distance themselves from the same. And I'm looking at this tweet by Honorable Oscar Sudi, the MP for Kapseret, who's known to be very close to President William Ruto. And on his tweet, he's actually used the front page of the Standard and said, Cherargei and the Standard are one and the same. Don't drag us into this nonsense. We know you are colluding. Do you really think the president stands to gain anything by going after his predecessor?
Well, I think the legal jargons have already been exhausted by my colleagues. So I look at the political side. And one of the things I want to say, Sam, is that one, I don't think.
Sorry.
I mean,
I understand the challenge.
I really don't think that the president is in it. And sometimes we say that if you want to know the honor of the dog, you go for the dog itself. We will know if the president is in it, but it's too soon for us to say that the president is in it. And then I want to bring us back. This is not the first time that we're hearing about the benefit of a retired senior government official being either threatened to be stripped off or being stripped off. Let me bring you back to memory lane. When Moi was finally going home, and they knew that Kibaki was going to be the next president, the first thing they did is they sat down and agreed that President Moi will fully benefit, get all these benefits. And these are things that sometimes happen behind the scene. You don't get to know about them. But I knew a little bit about that they sat and they said, look, you have to leave President retired Moi put. let him enjoy whatever his retirement is, and none of his properties, none of his businesses, none of anything that he was doing will be touched. And so the agreement was honored, and when President Moi retired, we had President Kibaki. He never talked about Moi. Of course, Moi did not really get into politics, and so his was a little bit smooth. We also know for a fact that when Kibaki was now giving power to Uhuru Kenyatta, the same was discussed because we knew that 2007 wasn't a very good transition. We knew that some people could be Parliament could be very powerful in one or the other and decide, look, this guy, put us to a mess in 2007, 2008, and why is he benefiting? But lo and behold, he didn't live for too long even to get into that theatrics of whether his benefits will be stripped of him or will be taken away. It was never discussed. And then we have President Uhuru Kenyatta giving power to President William Ruto, who is in place. These were really bosom buddies. I don't know if you remember the early days when they were even adorned in the same tie, the same shirt, and the same trouser. I mean, they were twins. They were so conjoined in their vision for this country, and they were for each other. Each, as my friend here said, President Uhuru Kenyatta was to serve 2 terms, and that's 10 years, and then as they had agreed, William Ruto will go for another 10 years. And it was they were in sync. It would be very difficult to imagine that even though they might not be as close as they were before, for anybody, including Senator Cheryl Guy, to even think that the relationship is so broken that it cannot be mended to a point where literally somebody will threaten his benefit. That will not happen. I saw that with former Prime Minister, the late Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, when politicians showed up and said, look, it's in politics, and it was during Uhuru's tenure. He is in politics. We cannot give him benefit. Remember, these benefits are in the Constitution, but besides that, they are also just meant for very, very few positions in this country. Like Prime Minister, for the first time, I think Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga got it. And then you have the President, and then you have the Vice President getting part of them. Musalia Mudavadi served as the shortest part, within the shortest time as the position of Vice President, and is enjoying the park. Is still enjoying the park. So there's positions that are there in the Constitution, and it's protected by the Constitution. And so when you have somebody saying that Uhuru Kenyatta is now involved in politics and therefore his benefit need to be stripped, and then you ask yourself, but what is Uhuru Kenyatta doing in Africa? He's been in DRC Congo, he's been in Ghana, he's been in many other places representing this country on peace.
They argue that that's not politics. They argue that that's
not. But they're talking about politicians. They're talking about lack of peace. They're talking about countries that are not doing well in their own rights, where there are coups and stuff like that. That's politics. You cannot take that away. So is it okay for him to talk about this outside the country, but when you come into the country?
To be sure, active politics is not defined in the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act.
But they talk about involvement in political party.
Correct. No. You see, what do you mean by active politics? It is not defined there. So that's an open-ended area and a zone that we are getting into. And so he's very right when he brings that issue. And then why isn't this being extended to Honorable Kalonzo, His Excellency Honorable Kalonzo? Why was it not extended to
Raila Odinga? And I think that's what you were explaining.
Yes. So that's exactly what I'm explaining, that we cannot use a statement that a president has given out there and then you say he's in active politics.
My concern is the political environment and what anyone would start. It is 14 months to the next election. This past weekend, President William Ruto was in Murang'a. He admitted that the mountain has really shifted and akasema amewachia Mungu. That's how bad the situation is. What does this kind of president stand to benefit by antagonizing another son of Mount Kenya by denying him retirement benefits?
I think nothing, absolutely nothing. If anything, he stands to lose a lot more not just Mount Kenya.
So you feel Cherargei is just a lone ranger doing his own thing?
I believe Cherargei is a lone ranger, and if there are any sensible voices that are outside there campaigning for the president to get a second term, they need to be a lot more sensible and rain down on the likes of Cherargei. You know, you can't be fighting on the same side and there are people who are just spraying bullets aimlessly. They might hit you and you're fighting for the same cause. And I think losing Kenyans is the last thing that the current president would want to do. And going for President Uhuru Kenyatta will pretty much extend that loss beyond Mount Kenya. And he'll lose the rest of Kenyans. For the simple reason that no Kenyan is comfortable where they are. Whether you are a salaried employee, you are in the informal sector, you are in campus, you know, you are Mama Mboga, no one is and you see, the bit that is tricky with the current regime is not what they are delivering. It's more about what they promised. So for the first time in the history of this country, we had a campaign period that had a political formation that promised things that looked so real, things that we could actually touch and say, by the way, since independence, we've been, you know, led by a group of people that we can term as elites. And now we are on the verge of something totally different. We are going to have one of our own. So the promises that the president made during the campaign were very real. Promises that Kenyans were looking at and saying, we will actually move to the next level of our socioeconomic, you know, well-being. But in as much as the previous presidents have, you know, taken us somewhere or left us where we were, despite all these promises that they made, I think for the last many months, and let me say before the Gen Z revolution, things were worse. I mean, it's the first time that we were realizing that this is a regime that came promising us a lot, but we are worse off than we were. Previous regimes were not even promising much, but they never made life worse for us. But this, before the Gen Z revolution, they did a lot more damages than any other previous regime did for the electorate. But let me just finish. Now, they have a saving grace because since the Gen Z revolution, I think we've seen, you know, a ton of events, you know, a lot more focus on equal redistribution of resources, a focus on the youth bulge, you know, economic activities and enterprises by the National Treasury that target specifically the young people. And we've seen the contribution of the young people in the recent economic survey, you know, a lot more coming from the digital economy. So there's a lot that they've done, which the likes of Cherargei are now going to wash down if they bring President Uhuru Kenyatta as a voice against this regime. Because there isn't much that Kenyans
we saw quite a number of people speaking against the president, Speaker of the National Assembly, quite a number of MPs. And anyone, because now they're saying that the president cannot be behind this argument. He does not stand to gain anything. Then why this much focus on Uhuru Kenyatta? This is someone that they defeated in the last election, or at least his interests were defeated in the last election. They say that he, even with the system, could not beat them. Why so much focus on him now? Are we saying that his stature has grown, that the kind of influence he will have on the next election is greater than he could have in the last one?
I think when you see, I differ with respect with Hezbollah here, when he says that you can't see, you can't trace the hand of the president. I beg to differ, because you can see all his acolytes. You know, Murkomen is out there, and Cherargei is there, Sudi was there, and probably Sudi then got to see the light. I don't know, he had this soul moment, Paul moment. But when you see the tabling of the motion is a process that, I mean, you just don't wake up and say that this is what I'm going to do without considering the political ramifications and the consequences, both in the short term and in the long term of your action. So unless, of course, the president's advisors are ignorant to the ramifications of this, especially when it is headline. It shows up in the headline and engages the Kenyan people in the public spaces to discuss about it, which amplifies the action in this instance. So I think the president either is not getting good advice or he's headlong into it. He may be out there veiled and behind and probably invisible, but if he has got good advice and he ignored it, and he has allowed this to spill over, it will cost him. It will cost him. Now, when you look at the Presidential Benefits Act, has President Uhuru in fact, violated or breached that. What do you make, for instance, of Section 6, subsection 2 of that Act? Fred, it says that the president, a retired president, will play this advisory role to the government and to the people of Kenya. So let's dichotomize that. Let's split.
It's not just to the president.
It's not just to the president. I mean, it talks about the government. So if the president is behind there, waiting for President Uhuru, a retired president, to come and give him advice, I would refer him to subsection 3. What does it say? Section 6, subsection 3 of the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act says that then the government can engage, assign to the deputy president a certain role, just like he was saying. There's a peace mission, for instance, in the Congo. So who is, quote unquote, the government's representative? We hereby appoint you and assign you the role of the peacemaker in the Congo conflict. So the government is there enjoying. You can read it to the Kenyan people, Fred. Section 6, subsection 3 of the Presidential Retirement Benefits, just to disabuse anyone. And they who are in government, who are probably misadvising this president.
As I look for it, because it might take a while.
No problem. No problem. Now that provision enjoins the government and places the burden on the government to write and formally communicate to the retired president. These are the parameters of our engagement in terms of your advisory role, or this is the assignment we would accord you. And then he responds that my schedule does not permit, just like recently, he was telling the Gen Zs, I'm afraid that your visit to Ishaweri to come and visit me conflicts with my earlier schedule, and therefore I am not able to meet you. And so the president then can respond to the government and say that, look, I take up this role in an advisory capacity. But to then, come and brand him that he is in active politics, he is barred, and you're now wielding this wrench against him, and then you're saying that I'm going to actually whack you in terms of your benefits, in violation of Article 151, like Hezbollah had already said. So the totality of all this is one which does not yield positive results or positively for the president. As I close, and you ask, what is the impact of this on the president? He had earlier on tried to say that, there was bromance in the earlier years of their shared TNA, URP, political tenure, and therefore, all is not lost. But I beg to differ. I beg to differ because I think there is a degree of dishonesty on the part of the president. When he went to Ishaweri just the other day, and there were this cabinet reshuffles and appointments of people who were seen as Uhuru's allies, everybody thought that, well, you see, they have buried the hatchet, and therefore the Kenyan population, the Kenyan people now, look to a prospective future of, a reconciled former president with a current president. Now, the political capital that was remaining in Mount Kenya now has decimated. And for political advisors who are on Ruto's, payroll, I would charge them with total and absolute failure, because whatever was remaining in terms of Mount Kenya, and you say that, he went to Morang and said, I'm going to leave you to God because now I'm at a dead end. He is not at a dead end. He has sunk to the depths of the ocean.
Right. But Bunagwenda, and this is a wild suggestion, that probably there was necessity politically to move the attention from the former deputy president, at least in Mount Kenya, to someone else. Because, yes, at least the president has been receiving quite a barrage of attacks from Rigathi Gachagua. And now we can't see any Rigathi Gachagua on the front pages, at least for the last 2 days. Do you think that could be possibly the reason why anyone would want to go after Uhuru Kenyatta?
Rigathi Gachagua moved from one church to the other. The churches are still there. And then now he's started going to the street, and the street is still there. It would be foolhardy to think that if you are attacking Uhuru Kenyatta, then you're going to shift attention from Rigathi Gachagua to Uhuru Kenyatta. But let me say something about politics now.
Look, when you're thinking about Mount Kenya, and all these gentlemen seem to be referring to Mount Kenya, are we saying that Kikuyus are only in Mount Kenya? No, they're not in Mount Kenya. William Samoei Ruto needs the Kikuyus in Rift Valley. He still needs the Kikuyu in the coast. He still needs the Kikuyu in Nakuru and those other, counties where there's a sizable number there. So he cannot come out and some of this, like the ones in Rift Valley, in Nakuru, owes tremendous respect to the Kenyatta family. Tremendous respect to the Moi family that are still intertwined with the Kenyatta family because they've worked for many, many years. Their sons are very, very close associates, whether in business or in politics or whatever you want to look at it. So you cannot tell me that the Cherargei is actually, and I will respectfully disagree with him, that Cherargei is speaking the mind of the president in this case. Cherargei is not running for president of the Republic of Kenya. Cherargei is running for Senate. You want to extend the tenure. So really, it's William Samoei Ruto that is looking for the votes, and it's looking for the votes for every individual in this country. Mount Kenya, per se, in that region, whatever you want to call it, central province of those days, might be having a lot of issues. But that doesn't mean that the Kikuyus that are living, and their sizable number in Rift Valley, will be thinking in the same way. And those Kikuyus might perhaps be voting for William Samoei Ruto if their relationship with Uhuru Kenyatta is better, because they knew they were friends and they've been friends. And Uhuru Kenyatta, during his tenure, really, really took good care of them in Rift Valley and took good care of them in Nakuru and those other places that we're talking about. So they still owe him a lot. So he cannot personally attack Uhuru Kenyatta again, because again, Uhuru Kenyatta is not running for president, and he will never run for president of the Republic of Kenya. He can say whatever he wants to say, but as you had said before, if William Samoei Ruto beat Uhuru Kenyatta and his government and his deep state, as they call it, and then William Samoei Ruto became the president, and the late Raila Amolo Odinga did not become the president, then what are you talking about? What about an individual that is not a president now in the name of Uhuru Kenyatta? I mean, will that be a threat to him? Absolutely not. I am thinking that sometimes we just want to throw in dirt here and there and then see what is happening. You know how they say, if you want to know what is in the bush, you just throw a stone there, and then if you see an animal coming out of it, then you know something. Cherargei is doing that game. And sometimes some of these politicians are also brokers in a way. They say something so that everybody is scampering for safety and saying, did Mzee, the one who said this or not, kuja kidogo, let's have a discussion here. Those kind of games in politics. I don't think it will see the light of day in the Senate. Neither will it see the light of day.
Because of time, I really want us to move on from this.
Just two things.
We need to talk about Samia Suluhu Hassan.
Two things. I think when you started, you mentioned Honorable Sudi and CS Murkomen. And I think from what they said, you can actually tell that the president is probably not heavily involved in this. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I listened to Sudi, I listened to CS Murkomen, and Murkomen was essentially tempering down, the tensions by saying that no one stops the former president from talking. If anything, he needs to come out and talk when issues demand that he offers counsel.
Okay.
But lastly, let me just say, there's always a very thin line between, genius and the ludicrous. And I think Senator Cherargei walks that line.
Yeah. He keeps crisscrossing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let me close just with one. The matrix, the dynamics have shifted and changed completely. So the defeat, quote unquote, of Uhuru's candidate in 2022, I mean, now when, President Ruto is accosted by the shift, the change reality, that is what is frightening him. Because whatever it is that was there in 2022, even in terms of Mount Kenya, then 100% will have gone. Okay. And so I think that is what is frightening him.
100% might not, because I've walked on the street and I've seen, if you talk about Mount Kenya, you're talking about a community. I've seen some community members saying, I will support. We have ministers that are working in this government. We have ministers that are supporting this government, that are serving in this government, that their family will vote for William Samoei Ruto. So it's not 100%.
It's not 100%.
Wakili, give it a better
So what do you think? Should the retired president be denied his benefits for allegedly engaging in active politics? That's the question we're asking today, and keep interacting with us on all our social media pages, TV47 Kenya, on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube, where we're streaming live. On X, it's TV47 Digital. Use the hashtag TV47 Breakfast, hashtag Story Ni Yetu. Now, if you look at the dailies in Tanzania today, it's all about William Ruto. Tanzania itapita salama, asema Ruto, gazeti la Mwananchi. I don't know if he was trying to an apology. He the other day declared that Kenya was way ahead of its neighbors. On the other hand, the Citizen talks about trade. Tanzania, Kenya set May deadline on barriers. So President William Ruto is currently on a 2-day official state visit to Tanzania. He's set to address the parliament in Dodoma today in the morning, and it's, actually TV47 will be broadcasting that event live starting 11 a.m. But yesterday, when his host Samia Suluhu Hassan welcomed him, she made some remarks that have elicited quite some conversation. Let's listen in to what President Samia Suluhu Hassan said.
Pigania demokrasi. Kwa hiyo wafanye fujo huku, wafanye fujo huku, wachome huku, wadisturb serikali zao. Nikaambia Ruto, we have to send firm on this, watovu wa adabu hao. Tusichague wa Tanzania au wa Kenya. Wakija kwangu na chapa mikwaju, wakija kwako chapa mikwaju. Ili wakae sawa. Na hapo tutapata jumuiya ambayo ina watu wenye heshima na ina watu walionyooka.
If you listen to the entirety of that clip, President Samia Suluhu Hassan was talking about a conversation she had with President William Ruto yesterday morning before they appeared before that forum, and it was about handling the Gen Z crisis. And her solution is a mikwaju. Wakija huku Tanzania mikwaju, wakija huko Kenya mikwaju. This has elicited quite some reaction, and curiously this comes only a week or less after President Samia Suluhu Hassan received the Judge Chande report on the aftermath of the elections in Tanzania of October 29th. It raises a lot of questions, and let's start with you, Hezbon. Because even when President William Ruto got an opportunity to stand and address the same forum, he did not counter that. He simply moved on. This is a president who said, this is a conversation we had with President William Ruto. Does it mean that even William Ruto, despite what we've seen in the last 2 years, that even he agrees, mikwaju upande hii, mikwaju upande ile?
I think coming hot in the heels of the Judge Justice Chande's report, it raises a lot of questions and issues that after such a landmark report that they did, a report that was based on an elaborate forensic analysis of what happened, because the chaos that happened in Tanzania were essentially chaos on the voting day. They were not post or pre. So there was a build-up pre-election, but on the voting day, they had, a very turbulent period that probably interfered with the election. And it is not clear who was behind that, whether it is the government that engineered that so that they got their way with electoral malpractices, or it was the opposition. And I think when Tundu Lissu was acquitted, he said that he will remain behind bars until after the election so that he's not accused of anything. So looking at that very robust report, for once I think Tanzania provided Africa and the East African region with a template of how you can solve your issues through internal institutions and mechanism, landmark, including what would happen immediately after that report, how to deal with the victims, and then how to go for the perpetrators. And you expected the president of Tanzania to take that conversation forward, but I think it's a mark time, and you could easily tell from that function that our president was fairly uncomfortable, didn't respond to it, because, I mean, in that kind of a situation, how do you respond? You say that we didn't speak about it, or I agree with what we said. So I think our president was a bit diplomatic in shying off from that conversation. But having said that, I think it's also important to situate, the Tanzanian democracy within the social construct that we have in Tanzania. Sometimes from 2019 up to 2023, we did a study on the state of innovation, the state of media viability in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And there are 5 indicators of media viability. One of them is actually community and social cohesion. And what we found is that, in a sense, you see the way you sit in Kenya and the way the president is saying, wakikuja Tanzania wanachapa rungu, Kenya is a safe haven for Tanzanians. I don't think any Tanzanian who is running away from the authoritarian regime would come to Kenya and be battered. They would actually find a safe haven because we are a lot more advanced as a society, we are a lot more conscious of the rights that we have, which is not the case in Tanzania. Because what we found in Tanzania is Tanzanians are actually very critical of the media that is overly against.
Yet we've had instances where an activist from Tanzania was abducted in Kenya for her political involvement. We also saw Kiza Besigye kidnapped from Kenya.
And you see,
when president said, say we sat down and talked about these things.
And that's what I'm saying. We've had very negative consequences to that. And I think one of the most consequential aftermath of the arrest of Besigye and Tanzanian activists was the fact that it cost Raila Odinga the AUC chairmanship. It did, whether we like it or not. I mean, presidents were like, if this is happening in your country, how are you going to solve the problems of Africa? But what I was trying to say is this: Tanzania is a totally different, social demographic. I mean, Tanzanians are different from Kenyans, and I think it is prudent that the president didn't respond. Even that phrase, kuchapa rungo, whatever he said, as Kenyans, we might understand is clamping down on people. I don't think that is the interpretation you get from a typical Tanzanian. Because what they believe in, coming from, an ujamaa kind of leadership, they believe that the government is actually serving their interest. And essentially, anyone who is antagonizing the government is supposed to be dealt with at an individual level for the greater good.
518 people died.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's something that we need to put in context. And I have said in the past that where Kenya is, Tanzania will get here like 20, 25 years to come. And we need to understand them from that perspective.
Yet even in our context, we're still reeling from the effects of June 25th, 2024. 2 years later, we still have people who are missing, bodies that are not accounted for, and all these things. So when two presidents sit down and one comes out and says, tumekubaliana, this is the kind of force we will use on either side of the border. Do you feel safe? Should we feel safe?
Contextually, we must peel this onion of democracy. Democracy, I mean, tremendous respect. Democracy, quintessentially understood, is a very good political concept. In terms of the realism that we live in the world today, democracy has been hijacked by the same cabal who sat in Berlin to cut up Africa, to divide Africa into their own exploitative pieces. Which is why today France thrives on the Francophone money. And it's a shame that Kenya will be hosting a Francophone meeting to endorse that very exploitation, which is going on today. And if I were the president, I wouldn't host it. I would in fact tell France off and tell them that you cannot leave off the resources and the reaches of Africa. Why do I say that? As a background, Tanzania is very rich in resources. And because of that, and especially the rare earth minerals, the same cabal are out there using the instrumentality of democracy. And the political space for them is very important in order then to prop up whoever it is that they can use as a puppet in order to continue siphoning off the wealth and the resources that are in that particular geographical context, which is why today we have the riches in gold and rare earth minerals and even coal and so on and so forth. That cabal has come and held captive this president because Kenyans should be very rich today, given even the oil, and we spoke this some time ago, but they are not benefiting from it. Now take that to Tanzania. Tanzania was very, blessed to have Magufuli. And Magufuli was able then to contain that incursion into the pilfering and the theft of Tanzanian resources. Now, once you understand that international cabal, you have to ask yourself, as a Kenyan, excuse me, you are the president of this country, and you're telling me in December 2025, you dare expend 25 billion on an Israeli spider missile launcher. Do we need 25 billion for a missile launcher? He is a puppet. Now, once you understand that international cabal and what they want, so you will have them using the political space to fund whatever is, using the open society funds and using whatever other funds that they have, so that they can have the political atmosphere for them now to siphon the African resources. Suluhu did not succumb to that. Tundu Lissu, with tremendous respect to him, is, in his Chadema, is an instrumentality of that cabal. Because, yes, Tundu Lissu, with tremendous respect to him. And you even question his own political party. And you'll find that information.
Okay.
The funding was there for him available. How come it was eaten?
Okay.
How come it was swallowed up? There was no accountability. So if you're telling me about democracy in terms of Tundu Lissu, and that there is that siphoning of them, what if you assumed political power? Now, so
you've thrown me off a bit, because even Tundu Lissu remained behind bars. If at all you're trying to suggest that he was behind the kind of protests we saw in Tanzania.
It's the international cabal that wanted to get rid of Suluhu, because Suluhu has carried on the policies of Magufuli to ensure that the rare earth minerals, for instance, are not stolen and taken off by this cabal. And this cabal has gone off to the Congo, and they have met the same obstinate sort of resistance. Now, when they came here, and they wanted, of course, to do what they wanted to do, because, there are those who are going to disagree with me and tell me that. But look, let's look at how come there is an NGO called Defenders Coalition. Defenders Coalition received these huge, humongous, with tremendous respect to them. I dare them just be clean on that. How come they receive this humongous amount of money? Prior to the Gen Z, hold on, prior to the Gen Z demonstrations. And they are the same people who received another humongous amount of money before the Tanzanian elections. And they, quote unquote, use Kenya as a base. Now, that's why I began by saying, let's peel off this onion of political interference with African democracy.
For the sake of our audience, Wakili, you're saying that whatever we saw in 2024 in Kenya, 2025 in Kenya, and what we saw in 2025 in Tanzania, actually it was not genuine agitation by young Kenyans in these two countries to fight for their electoral rights or something like that. This is a greater conspiracy theory by an international cabal?
As unpalatable as it is, yes. And you see, the larger, the bigger this whole scenario is, the harder it is for the Kenyan people or other people to believe that actually there is a force behind this. And why do I say that? Because you see, if it was organic, if it was genuine, why would you need to have a springboard? Why would you need to launch that from the Kenyan side? Using the same NGOs, using the same entities, using the same people that were the players.
Back to my question now. It is the kind of action against these young Kenyans.
I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying that anybody should be killed.
The justification of the same. Two presidents can decide to sit down and discuss how they're going to deal with these young Kenyans, whether or not the international cabals have their own agenda. My concern is defending the rights of young Kenyans and Tanzania. I agree that fine. Some of these discussions
but let me finish this point so that he can take over. The point is now, peradventure, and I would have liked to ask to Her Excellency Suluhu and Ruto, I would have liked to ask them, in connection with that remark, is it true, or have you established that indeed the Gen Z, the superficial, what we see superficially, physically, behind that you've now come to realize that there are these forces, and that your remarks are directed at that target, that if they come to Kenya, you attack that target, and you remove these. And when they come to Tanzania, you attack them, as it were, the international cabal.
But that's not what the presidents are talking about. They're talking about young Kenyans and young Tanzanians, and we do anticipate that in the next 1 month or 1.5 months, probably younger Kenyans may want to mark the second anniversary of what happened in 2024. And then President Samia Suluhu Hassan says she's discussed with Ruto on how to deal with them.
Fred, You know, it's very funny that you find somebody that you think is well enlightened, the president of a nation, making such statement. And it looks to me like really, and especially trying to compare the two countries, and you're wondering which country is she in, and which country does she think Kenya is in? Because when you say piga makwaju, I saw in a clip where a minister in Tanzania went to a high school that I think had demonstrated or something like that, and he was whooping those guys one by one, and he was furious in a suit, man. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether President Suluhu is aware that in this country we pass a law that you should not cane a child or flog a child in school. I don't know whether she's aware about that. That's how
euphemism. Is that euphemism that she was using?
That's how deep we've even put these things into constitution, to a place where we're saying, look, we need to talk to our kids, we need to reason with them, we need to have them counsel for one reason or the other, even though it's not the same as what is happening in the West, like United States of America and other places, but at least we are trying, we're getting somewhere where we are reasoning with our kids. This is not a generation where you're going to use a mukwaju on, I'm telling you, for free. Because if you do that, then they will tell you, oh, we are now bordering mental issues, either with our stress level or getting to this level. I mean, they expose so much that is in the world that you cannot just try to make East Africa be East Africa and therefore try to, negotiate with both presidents and say, look, this is what we'll do. We, as a nation, Kenya, we are global. I mean, this is one of the countries that is now recognized when it comes to IT and issues of online participation in the global community. We are in the world map of some of the smartest people we have. We have issues with brain drain.
But we don't share the economics of it.
Hold on. I haven't got into the economics part of it. I'm just trying to tell you where Kenya is. And therefore, when you're still thinking that you can only just, talk to Kenya as a Tanzanian, just talk to Kenya and think you really grasp the issues that are in this country, then you're lying to yourself, in my view.
My question is, because during the events of October 29th, a lot of Kenyans were caught up in between, especially those working in Tanzania, and they run businesses. We've also had instances where quite a number of Kenyans who crossed over to Tanzania for whatever reason were arrested. Some claim they were tortured. We've had similar sentiments from Uganda. Doesn't this leave Kenyans exposed whenever they cross the border? If the president of Tanzania issues this kind of threat that wakija huku mikwaju, wakirudi Tanzania wakija kwenyu mikwaju, because initially whatever happened in Tanzania was to some extent blamed on Kenyan youth.
You see, I think the biggest challenge we have is not even whether Kenyans are under some sort of threat when they cross to Uganda or Tanzania. The biggest threat we face today is mis and disinformation. A lot of what people are saying, if you read the Chande report, for instance, you realize that they had a very nuanced forensic analysis, or even the footages that were used in claiming that Kenyans who were arrested were being tortured. But on the reality, I mean, if you look at the reality on the ground, we know the Kenyans who were arrested, we know what they went through, but I think it was blown out of proportion, and I think that's what the report is unearthing. And it's a landmark report, and the reason why I'm saying it's a template that can be used in Africa is simple. The methodology that they deployed and the recommendations and what is happening after that. But the broader context within which we need to understand this is, you can't listen to President Suluhu once and say that this is what she meant. Because you are Kenyans. No, let me just...
in Swahili.
No, let me just...
And I agree. I agree. It was in English. We may have misunderstood.
No, that's true.
I agree with Wakili.
That's what has been
a detailed analysis of all these things, will tell you that there is a lot that Suluhu knows that as Kenyans, just imagine that we know stuff. So, if you look at the entire context of what she said within the context of the findings of that report, she probably might not even be talking about the Gen Zs. she probably is talking about...
We have the entire clip. We can play the entire clip. She talked about a particular group.
Yes. But you see,
let him finish.
She's probably talking about the people who are behind the turbulence in East Africa. It may not be the Gen Zs.
Yes.
It may not be. And I think we need to read deeper into this. But the second
I'll
layer
ask my director to open up the entire clip because we need to play it again.
Yes.
For context.
And I hope you'll also give us the highlights of what the report established. And then
it's very significant.
Yes. And then number two is the issue of language. You know, I have colleagues in Tanzania, and you know, sometimes you tell them we speak Kiswahili because you're like, they tell you, no, clearly we are getting lost somewhere. You know, mchawi in Kenya, today if you talk about mchawi in Kenya, you're talking about?
A witch, a wizard.
A witch, a night runner. But mchawi in Tanzania is a doctor. So when you talk about mukwajo, I think we also need to frame it within the right context. And I would encourage the media to get, or Kenyans, to socialize with the entire discourse of President Suluhu, to understand her use of language.
Before we make our final comments, let's listen to that clip in its entirety so that we can make the final comments.
Tukaa tunazungumza jinsi ya kudeal na hawa watoto wetu watovu wa adabu wanaojiita nani hilo jina hao eti na wenyewe wanajifanya ni hao wa East Africa. Kwa hiyo popote wanakwenda kupigania demokrasi. Kwa hiyo wafanye fujo huku, wachome huku, wadisturb serikali zao. Nikamwambia Ruto, we have to send firm on this watovu wa adabu hao. Tusichague wa Tanzania au wa Kenya. Wakija kwangu na chapa mikwaju, wakija kwako chapa mikwaju. Ili wakae sawa.
I don't know how much simpler it can get in Swahili.
No, Fred.
Hawa watoto wetu.
There are Gen Zs in Migori, where I come from. Migori is not very far from Tanzania.
As you make your final comments here.
Yes. Actually, Tarime and Migori, we attend their celebrations, they attend ours. And listening to that, I don't think the president is talking about Gen Zs in Migori crossing over to Tanzania to go and cause chaos. It's a bigger, the context is bigger. There has to be someone. It's the same thing with the goons. We talk about goons meting violence on people. No, the goons are the politicians who sit in boardrooms and decide that we will cause chaos here. The guys who are arrested along the streets are not goons. They are vulnerable Kenyans who are looking for opportunities, and politicians are taking advantage of them.
So you're saying
we
have totally missed out on what President Samia Suluhu Hassan was saying?
I think she's very bright. She's talking about two things at the same time. But we are focused on the fact that she used the word watoto. There's a deeper meaning to it.
Beyond watoto.
Yes.
I agree. I wholly agree with him. You see, and you have to decode this. And this is a problem that we have. Because you see, the African has, with tremendous respect, gotten very deceived into thinking that this is just a mere communication gadget. It is not. This is a tool of neocolonization. And you ask yourself, why is Google, an American company, funded by the American taxpayer, sending me its platform, Google, and it wants to get my messages, my images, my everything, and then on top of that, I buy a gadget, an iPhone, for instance, and then that's an American product, and it is loaded with software that is directing me to their platforms. And you don't have a single African platform on this. So you come to democracy and you ask yourself, what is it that I'm fighting for if I'm not fighting for the retention of my resources to benefit me, which is what I was saying, that we can get on to online these spaces, which, by the way, they are managed by them. You host your website by them. They can switch you off anytime that they feel like. You got it on YouTube, they can switch you off anytime they feel like. It is their YouTube.
That threat by international cabals has always existed.
No.
Why are we saying like now it is the biggest threat?
But Africans are waking up.
Forcing African leaders to clamp down on their own residents, own citizens because of those people?
You see, I'm saying, and I use this analogy to show you that, look, nobody's going to show up and tell you that I've come to colonize you. I've come to do. It is very subtle. It is very insidious. It is something that you have then to ask yourself at a very personal level. Why is it that I'm sitting on gold? Why is it I'm sitting on oil or even on coal? And someone is coming to actually block me from benefit from it. You ask yourself. So the Africans must wake up and ask, you ask, okay, why is it an investor has to come from outside there? And why can't we pool our own resources, our own selves, to get the mining? And how is it that De Beers, the largest mining company in South Africa, is foreign owned? Well, why is that? So as I say that, this idea that Suluhu was out there targeting, the youth, the Gen Zs of Tanzania, and telling Ruto, okay, if they show up there, you ask yourself that expression, and I like how Hezbollah put it. Decode that expression. If they come to Kenya, whack them. If they come here, I will whack them.
Is it so difficult to talk about those people?
No. You see that because they want you ignorant. They want you ignorant. They take your money. No. Which is why I was saying that you'll get online as much as you want.
Yes.
And they will platform you on YouTube. And when they want to switch you off, they will switch you off. Then where's your control?
Yeah.
Where is your control?
Are we overplaying this thing? This is simple Swahili. Watoto wetu, watovu wa nidhamu.
Yeah. I don't know whether they're being paid to.
No. We condemn any anti-democratic clampdown.
Absolutely. Yes. You see, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because really, you cannot threaten a foreign nation. I mean, not a foreign. You cannot threaten an independent nation and tell them that this is what I want you to do. First, by even herself saying that I had this discussion, and I'm even preferring that if my people come over there, clamp them up, and if your people come over here, I wish you could have talked about the laws that are governing the nation. I wish you could have said, within the context of that, the laws of that nation, and not that you just give a blanket suggestion like that. And I'm glad that Honorable Ruto did not speak about this thing at all. But another thing that makes me a little bit happier with our president is that she is the one that approached this discussion from what she's saying, that she's the one who told President Ruto, this is how we need to deal with this thing. And because President Ruto knew the type of country she's leading, he's leading, I think he just said, this is not something I want to delve into today because I don't think I want my people to start having this discussion. Remember, Gen Zs have died. Whether here or there, one life loss is too many. Mm-hmm. We cannot even regularize that. We cannot even make it a fun. Like some people are laughing in that, dignitaries are laughing in that hall. People have died as a result of this, perhaps
but
this
those
what we're talking about.
They consider that collateral damage.
I'm not for the cabal. I'm not for the cabal for today. I'm talking about the literal sense of this statement that she made. You asked a question, how about Kenyans who cross over? How do they feel when they hear such a statement? How about Tanzanians who cross over this side? I've been to Tanzanians. Kenyans are living in, I've been to Tanzania. Kenyans are living in fear in Tanzania. I was there with some dignitaries at one point, who were serving in the East African community. And they complained that Kenyans are hugely being harassed. Their, work permits are not being renewed. And sometimes you have to pay a lot of money in Tanzania to even get, to go around your businesses. Some of their businesses are being threatened. I was in Tanzania. We got into some altercation, one of us. We went to a police station and we told these guys on their face at one point that how many Tanzanians are in Kenya, wachuuzi wadogo. Mukifanya hawa wa Kenya vile mnawafanya, sisi pia tutarudi kule makwetu na tuwatafute na tutawaweka mkokorokoroni, whatever it is. That statement alone made the Kenyans to be released out of the jail where they were. And they were arrested for no good reason. You understand that? So I've been there. I've seen what is happening there. We cannot tensionalize the already friction that is between Kenyans who are there and what they're experiencing. And then the president is saying that tutawapiga mkwaju. Let's look at the law. And let's say if they cross over and goes against the law, commit an offense, please arrest them and detain them within the confine of your constitution, of your laws. But don't tell us that we can piga our makwaju. That is not something we want to accept, and I don't think Kenya will accept that. All I am saying is, look, we cannot live in fear in East African community. We're already having deadlines, economic deadlines, that are having discussions over Tanzania that we don't know even whether they will be met. But it is Tanzania that have continuously negated on the agreement, our economic agreement with them, because of some unknown fear. This Cold War between Kenya and Tanzania has to stop, and people have to know that whether you have the borders or not, people will still trade. Ugandans have had it very, very easy. They know very well that with Kenya they can grow, and Uganda has grown tremendously as a result of the businesses that they're doing between Kenya and Uganda. All we have to say is this: the president of East African community must know that we are one community. We were once a country, and we can trade, we can live together, we can buy property, we can do anything without threat. And if that's what they will say, Kenya and East Africa will grow.
Divided by the colonizer.
President Samia Suluhu Hassan,
who are not there now. We are the ones now that are propagating.
Pigwa mukwaju. If you cross the other side, pigwa mukwaju. That was her statement. Well, let's take a short break. TV47 continues after this.